Namaste. This is Renee. Welcome to Peace, Love, and Abundance podcast. I have gone through several episodes now. I'm kind of excited about that. If you've been listening and you're enjoying these podcasts and you're wondering how you can help support me, I would like to share with you, if you aren't aware, that on my website I have several offerings. I have some pre-recorded workshops that I've made that are at a self-learning pace that you listen to or watch. They're PowerPoint kind of presentations, but you can watch these on your own in your own time. As a matter of fact, I suggest they are like about 2 hours long. The Ayurveda is almost 4 hours. But I suggest that you watch them in 20-minute increments as you go through them so you can kind of absorb a little bit here and there. There is a visual, like a PowerPoint presentation, and then there's also just an audio version of it. And those are up on my website. I highly encourage you to go check them out. I believe that they're very affordable, only $10 to $20, and you could totally help support my podcast, help me keep this going, help me fund my business, my woman entrepreneur business. I have no other backing besides teaching at local yoga studios. So I would very much appreciate your support. And today I'm talking a little bit about how I found myself through health and nutrition, how I found what's called my Dharma, my true path, what makes me who I am and makes me enjoy what I do, because I truly do enjoy my job. I'm blessed to have figured out my Dharma and be able to share that with everybody. And today is kind of a little bit my story, how I got into this. I've shared my story through other avenues, like on Facebook. I've shared my story of my family history and the struggle with losing my mother and 2 brothers to uncurable diseases. And that was a big part of me becoming someone who sought out a better way of life, a daily way of life, and even nutrition and health. But beyond that, what's the true path? Like, how did I create this person that I am today? You know, even if you want to call them my credentials. How did I get to this point? What's my education? What's my knowledge? What do I have to bring to the table to justify doing these podcasts and teaching yoga and trying to guide people to another way of life? So today's episode is about that, about how I got to where I am. And maybe for you, you might be seeking a similar path, and I hope this inspires you to find this path as well. My intention is to be a guide. I've always just wanted to be a guide to help teach you. Knowledge is power, and I love to share knowledge. I love to just spew it everywhere I can, because it's a tough road sometimes when you want to change some of the habits in your life. It's a tough road to figure out, where to start, what direction. Nutrition changes daily. It almost seems like one week they want you to eat saturated fats, and then the next week you shouldn't, and then the next week after that, saturated fats are back on the menu. So it can be tough sometimes to know who to believe, who to trust, who to follow. And I really just want to be that guide for you, for anybody, for everybody. Now, why do I call myself a guide and not a coach? A guide truly is somebody who's going to guide you through the process. But in the end, your body tells you yes or no. Everybody is different. There is not one singular diet out there that's perfect for everybody. Or even just today, that we can all eat the same foods on today, and we're all going to get the same benefits. So for today, living for today, the present moment, and tomorrow you might feel slightly different than you do today. And so therefore, you kind of need a guide. A coach often tells you a game plan, and you go out there and you do that game plan, and then you wait and see what kind of results you get from that game plan. And it may work for you and it may not, because the same diet doesn't work for everybody. But as your guide, I'm trying to get you to listen to your body. I'm trying to get you to, in a way, become your own guru. because you have the ability to know what your body likes and dislikes. You just need to slow down and listen to it. Maybe even sometimes stop reading so many articles on the latest nutrition fads, but rather just slow down and listen to your body. Go back to the basics. We need protein. We need carbs. Do we need mass amounts of carbs? No, but we do need some carbs in the diet. As a matter of fact, electrolytes, like what Gatorade is, electrolytes, they will not absorb into your body without a little bit of sugar. These days, it's all the craze to drink like Propel, which is sugar-free to get your electrolytes. But I'm telling you, you have to drink a lot of Propel to get those electrolytes to absorb. What if you could take in less electrolytes if you had a little bit of sugar with it? Sugar helps open up your cells so that the electrolytes, the minerals, can get into the cells. Sugar is the key to unlocking that. Now, I'm talking natural sugars. Don't go eat a tablespoon of sugar right now, of refined white sugar, just to get your electrolytes to absorb. But what if you were eating fruit to get your electrolytes? Fruit has lots of minerals and electrolytes in it, and the perfect balance of sugar to absorb it. Berries are very low in sugar, but they're a complete sugar and electrolyte. Berries have a lot of vitamin C and even minerals in them, and they're not heavy in sugar. So if you do know that you don't do well with a lot of sugar, like diabetics, granted, they got to be careful with their sugar intake. Berries are a really good choice. They're low in sugar, but they have enough sugar. They're just like nature's little miracle. They have enough sugar that you can absorb the electrolytes. Anyways, I'm starting to steer off course. I get really excited whenever I'm talking about health and nutrition, if you can't tell. So getting back on track a little bit of how I got to this point in my life. As a kid, I was the one who ate my veggies at the table. You have the siblings or the kids that don't want to eat their veggies. I ate my veggies at the table. I liked veggies. I liked them, they felt good with me, and somehow, even as a kid, I really had this affinity for doing things that were good for me. Until I became a teenager, then I fell off the wagon and did drugs. But even when I did my drugs as a teenager, I still loved to eat my veggies and my fruit. Anyways, that could be a whole nother podcast, right? We've all been a teenager at some time in our lives. Any rate, whenever it comes to eating or putting food in my body, I was always very much aware of what I was putting in my body. I would have a Twinkie here and there. My mom liked to buy us Little Debbies and Twinkies and Hostess and such, and so it wasn't perfectly innocent. I enjoyed being a kid and ate some like maybe not so healthy food as well. But I did lean towards the veggies and fruit. I remember one time my mom bought a brand new bundle of bananas, and by the end of the day they were gone. And I remember her being like, where in the hell did the bananas go? And I ate them all. But anyways, she knew if the produce disappeared quickly, it was probably me. And I was the youngest in the family, and I put it down like crazy. We were egg farmers when I was a kid. Total slave labor. But as a kid, even at 6 years of age, I had to pick eggs. We had 22,000 chickens. I repeat, 22,000 chickens. And we had to pick those eggs and harvest them and send them in a truck to be processed and go to the grocery store so you all could buy them. But even at the age of 6 years old, I was total slave child labor helping out in the family egg farm. Being in that environment and seeing the process and how the chickens were treated, it was the total chicken sweatshop. 12 chickens to a cage. Very inhumane, and we processed a lot of eggs for the grocery stores. But seeing this, even as a kid, it just didn't seem right to me, and it quite frankly grossed me out to see the way these chickens were raised. And that big heart in me as a little kid, it turned me off. I didn't eat chicken or eggs for many, 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 many years. I avoided them because I was inundated with them. Also, being the youngest in the family, I was also kind of, nowadays I would call it abuse, but teased, to where often I came home with eggs in my hair, eggs all over my body, because we would have egg fights and just toss them at each other. And being the youngest, I was just a really good target because I couldn't defend myself. So, anyways, I'm sure you can imagine maybe why I wasn't a big fan of chicken and eggs from an early age. So maybe that's why I gravitated towards vegetables and fruit. Eventually, I ate less and less meat. I didn't even want the red meats, turkey at Thanksgiving. I started to eat less and less. However, I never really labeled my eating habits. I think even when I was a kid, being born in the 70s when I was a kid, granted, don't get me wrong, there was vegetarians in the 70s, but I think with less multimedia back then and growing up in a small town and even on an egg farm and everything like that, I really didn't even know what it meant to be a vegetarian. I'd never put a label at it or label on it, but I just knew that I ate less and less meat and more fruits and vegetables, bread, cheese. I've always been a cheese lover. So cheese has always been my favorite. But I never put a label on it. It just didn't, I don't know, it never occurred to me. It wasn't in my atmosphere. It wasn't in my peers, so I never put a label on it. But my habits were definitely cheese, bread, fruit, veggies. I loved having a grilled cheese or some hash browns with cheese on it. There usually was always some kind of cheese. And then fruits and veggies. Cheese on broccoli was the bomb, right? I went like this for quite a while. I'm not saying I avoided meat completely, because if I went to a Mexican food restaurant, I would have a smothered burrito. It would be a smothered bean burrito, but you know that back then the tortilla had lard in it, and the green chili was probably pork-based. So I didn't go out of my way, because again, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that a true vegetarian or what a true vegetarian was to be able to avoid all that stuff. I just ate what sounded good to me, and I very seldom picked extra meat to be in it. Let's put it that way. In my late 20s, downtown Denver, very urban, very cool, very hip, I started to fall in love with soy milk. So going to a coffee shop, I was a big tea drinker. I've never been a big coffee drinker until about 5 years ago. I started drinking coffee in my 40s. Go figure. I made it 40 years without coffee, and then I discovered I liked it. Anyway, as a tea drinker, I loved doing a British style tea. And I started to discover soy milk because it has that vanilla flavor. You know, a lot of the original soy milks were already flavored with vanilla. So I started to acquire a taste for vanilla soy. Putting it in my tea, it just made that extra special little flavor. So I even started to do shakes and smoothies and bowls of cereal with soy milk. And I just got on that soy milk craze because also at the time when soy milk first came out, there was a lot of people promoting that it was better for you. So I got on the soy milk kick. Still at this time, not really declaring myself as a vegetarian. And I didn't really get into the soy burger craze. I didn't get into eating a fake burger. I just stuck more to my cheese, breads, fruit, and vegetables. That was kind of my staple. Pizza, lots of pizza, right? Because that's bread and cheese and pasta sauce. Eventually, in my late 20s also, early 30s, I started to develop a lot of breast pain. 24/7, 365 days of the year, my boobs hurt. Guys, if there's any guys listening to this right now, I hope that you have compassion for women and everything that we go through as women. But I had breast pain 24/7, 365 days a year. I'm not just talking PMS before my period, but full breast sore, was going up in cup sizes. My boobs were even getting bigger with this breast tenderness. Now, I didn't even have this much breast tenderness as a teenager. I started my period at 11 years old, which is on the early side, and it was super heavy from the get-go. I would miss 2 to 3 days of school each month because I couldn't even keep it under control, and it was very embarrassing in school and very painful. Lots of bad craps. So my period has always been an issue for me. At an early age, I was put on birth control to help keep that in check, and that did work for me. I obviously came off birth control in around 23, had my son at 24. I quickly got pregnant coming off birth control, had my son at 24. But since then, I didn't go back on birth control because in the back of my mind, I've always been this person that didn't want to alter my body with pharmaceuticals and has always wanted to be natural. So I've dealt with hormone imbalances my whole life, especially since I chose not to go back on birth control. But in my late 20s, like 29, 30, I started to really have this breast tenderness that really concerned me. By this time, my mother had died of breast cancer. Having that constant reminder every day that my boobs hurt, and this is how my mom died, was because of breast cancer, it really fucked with my brain. Yes, I know. Excuse my French, but that's the best way to explain it. When you've had a mom die of breast cancer, and then you can't shake the pain in your breasts that you have 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, it truly does fuck with your mind. It does. There's no better way to describe it. Excuse my French. But with that, I was obviously going to the doctor, like, what is wrong with me? What's going on? This is very unsettling. And they set up some mammograms and ultrasounds. And so in my 30s, I had a mammogram, which is early. Generally, you don't have them until mid-40s. It depends on if you have family history of breast cancer when they start doing them, but you generally don't have them in your 30s. But I did, and they didn't find anything. They didn't find anything wrong in the breast scans. And so then they were starting to talk about hysterectomy because at the time I was also having very heavy periods, and they diagnosed me with endometriosis. Endometriosis, if you don't know what that is, it's the overgrowth of the endometrium. So the lining that builds up in your uterus as it tries to prepare for pregnancy. So I had an overbuildup of that because of the hormone imbalance. So they spoke about doing a hysterectomy to remove my female parts because that was their cure to getting rid of my breast tenderness. Well, in the meantime, between doctor's visits, I went on vacation for over 2 weeks to Florida and drove up the coast to North Carolina. But while I was on vacation visiting friends, I chose to not be high maintenance. I was going to eat what was put in front of me, which included not, buying soy milk or not requiring my house hosts that I was visiting, my friends that I was visiting, not requiring them to buy me soy milk. So I was off soy milk for 2 weeks. Within that 2 weeks, before I came home from vacation, I got instant relief from the breast tenderness. Again, it had nothing to do with my cycle. It had nothing to do with when my period happened or PMS. So midway through my vacation, about a week to 10 days of no soy milk, my body started to feel better. By the time I got home from vacation and 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks of no soy milk, I had zero breast tenderness. And then I had my doctor's appointment to talk about maybe the true hysterectomy if that was the only path for me. And believe it or not, through all this time, it was very stressful for me. My mom had a hysterectomy in her early 30s. By now, I'm in my early 30s contemplating a hysterectomy, and it scared the shit out of me. Because my mom had a hysterectomy in her early 30s, was put on hormone replacement therapy, and then was diagnosed with breast cancer late 40s, early 50s, and died by mid-50s. So the thought of getting a hysterectomy it fucked with my mind. I did not want to repeat my mom's health history. And so when I went to the doctor and told them, hey, I've been on vacation for over 2 weeks, not drinking soy milk, my breasts feel better, and I even have less cramping with my periods, do you think there could be a connection? And the doctors told me, bless doctors, don't get me wrong. I love doctors because in a crisis, they're there for all of us. Modern medicine is amazing in most aspects. But doctors, especially this doctor, didn't really put much emphasis in nutrition or what we eat and what we put in our bodies. And the doctor told me, no, it's not what you eat. We need to do this hysterectomy. And believe it or not, I actually still see this doctor I go to him when my son had strep throat or I had strep throat. We still go see him. We still rely on him. But I trusted my instincts and I told him, you know what, I have zero breast tenderness by not having soy. They also ran some blood work on me, did another pap smear, looked at my uterus and everything and said, wow, yeah, actually you seem to be functioning much better. You have less buildup of the lining. The endometriosis seems to be backing off. And yeah, if you want to postpone this hysterectomy, let's postpone it. Why not? You're showing signs of feeling better. So he actually supported me, which was cool. So cool. I still see this doctor to this day. But on the other hand, I trusted my instincts. And it doesn't hurt if you're feeling better. What does it hurt? Now, granted, I am not giving any advice here. This is just my story. This is my story. Disclaimer here. This is just my story. I started to feel better. I still did get a little breast tenderness with PMS, but that seemed more normal to me to have 5 days or a week of breast tenderness, but not 24/7, 365 days of the year. I skipped having a hysterectomy, and still to this day, I'm 47 now. I still have my lady parts. I still have a period once a month, and never had a hysterectomy. And now, too, my period is very minimal, very bearable, very predictable. I guess I should be proud that I'm still menstruating. Part of me feels like I'm ready to be done with it just because monthly taking care of it's a pain in the ass. But I'm actually proud of my having a period still, because a lot of women at 47 can't say that they're still regular and have it be just a part of their lives. I do still get some breast tenderness. It comes and it goes. I've narrowed it down to some foods I eat. When I eat certain foods, inflammation raises in my body, and I get achy joints and sore boobs. It's my curse. What can I say? Sore boobs. But it's not 24/7, 365 days of the year. Anyways, around that time or after that time, I went to esthetician school to become a licensed esthetician. An esthetician, if you don't know, is a skin therapist, someone who does like facials, dermal blasting. You work with the skin. The skin is the largest organ of the body, so I'm actually very proud to be a licensed esthetician and knowing that the skin is the largest organ of the body and I am licensed to touch it, to work with it, to help people with it. And my school that I chose was a more expensive school, but they focused more on nutrition and natural remedies. So I'm really thankful for that because it fit my ideals. The school also eventually formed a partnership with a master herbalist and herbal practitioner, and she had an herbalist program. She came in to speak to us, to kind of promote her program and promote herself. And she, in the middle of speaking to us, started mentioning health. And she said, for example, a lot of people don't know that soy can throw your hormones off balance. And the minute she said that, I was like, wait. Keep talking, keep saying more, because you are finally confirming what I felt in my body. So I met Lorna. Oh, bless her heart. I love Lorna. Anyways, she confirmed what I had been feeling in my body, that natural instinct in me that maybe soy isn't exactly what I need. And I started to see her as my, kind of naturopath or natural practitioner. She started to help me with consultations and sessions. She started to help me clean up my diet. And she said, Renee, to truly clean up your diet, you need to reintroduce more animal protein in your diet more consistently. Again, remember, I told you that I didn't eat a lot of meat, but I didn't avoid it. I never labeled myself as a vegetarian. So if I had a pork green chili, I didn't stress over it. Or if there was lard in the tortilla, I didn't stress over it. I wasn't a true vegetarian watching everything I ate. I just didn't choose the meat options. But she said, we need to get you back on a little bit of animal protein. I was so deficient in protein and everything else that goes along with it, iron and everything, that she's like, we need to get you back on some animal protein. So we eased me back on. I am to this day able to consume some chicken, some white meat chicken, but I refuse to eat chicken off the bone. And I don't want to see the bone. So I just already buy the breasts, because whenever I see the bone, it reminds me more that it used to be a live animal, or makes me think of the chickens in the old chicken farm. Anyways, we're not going to go any further on that. But I refuse to eat meat off the bone. So I started to bring protein back in my diet. The easy part was I already liked fruits and vegetables. And I started to lay off the bread family. This is all back in 2005, even before gluten became a big craze to where even non-celiacs were starting to avoid gluten. I started cutting out bread in 2005, and I started feeling better and bringing on animal protein and started to feel even better. And it was so amazing that a 1-hour visit with her wasn't enough for me. I needed to learn more. I needed to know why the herbs she was having me taking and adding animal protein back to my diet and being more mindful about all this. I needed to know why this was working. I didn't just at that point want somebody to tell me what to do. I was so fascinated by the change in my health that I needed to know why this was working. So of course I signed up for the Master Herbalist program and started my journey of adding Master Herbalist to my esthetician, and completed my Master Herbalist over 1.5 years it took me. So I've been practicing herbalism and licensed esthetician for over 13, almost 14 years now. I added yoga almost 10 years ago, but that was truly the puzzle piece that really started to bring everything together. And in my Master Herbalist training, we covered traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, how the body works and functions. I covered the organs and what they do for us and how they work and the nutrients they need. You can't be an herbalist or an Ayurvedic practitioner without knowing how the body functions and how nutrition feeds the body and certain organs. So along with becoming a master herbalist, it's more than just growing. I wasn't a botanist. Some people confuse me with being a botanist, somebody who grows plants and herbs. This was the nutrients that you get from a certain herb and how it interacts with your body and how it becomes nutrition. So I had to learn nutrition, the bodily functions, and the organ functions, how they all work together, and how nutrition or lack of nutrition, the signs and symptoms, if you want to say. So it was quite amazing for me, and I started to really geek out on it. I knew that I really found what I was looking for. And even as a kid, I had an affinity for this stuff. But when you grow up in the country and you don't know what you don't know, it's hard to know what you don't know, right? So this opened a whole new world for me. A whole new world. I started understanding even how cancer starts to develop in the body, how we all have cancer cells in us. And if you're not careful, you can either feed those cancer cells or you can just keep them on the down low. They're not going away. We all have some in us today. But it just opened a whole new world for me. And then adding yoga to it, how the benefits, even physically, how my shoulders started to relax down and away from my ears, how I could rotate my head without any stiffness in my neck, and my posture started to stand taller. And I could go to the doctor and the chiropractor less because I was truly taking my health into my hands and cultivating a better way of health. It was just quite amazing how it all came together. I worked as an esthetician in spas. I've worked in spas from Colorado to even Maui, worked in a spa in Maui. I've taught yoga in various places in Colorado and in Maui. It's just been an amazing journey for me. I am really happy that I found this, and that's what drives me to want to share this with people, because it wasn't always easy for me to figure out which path to take. Who knows what research is nowadays, what research has marketing behind it. Did you know that the reason why saturated fats were promoted as bad for us is because someone invented margarine? And once they spent all that money to invent margarine, which is trans fats, once they spent all that money to invent it, they needed to sell it to recapture the money they spent on investing it. So the best way to sell margarine was to tell you that butter and saturated fats was bad for you. So you need to buy margarine, and then they paid off the patent and all the money they put into research to create margarine. That's 100% why saturated fats became supposedly bad for you. So it all became marketing and lobbyists and promoting a certain company, and it just got out of hand. So you really do have to be mindful with your resource of where they're getting their research and what's the backing behind it, what's the lobbying behind it, what's the marketing, what's in it for them for sales. Soy became a multi-billion-dollar industry. Soy is easy to grow in the U.S., and they figured out they could turn it into milk. So let's turn dairy into this horrible thing and promote soy milk as the better and healthier way. But it's highly processed. I still eat some edamame. When I go have sushi, I have a little bit of soy sauce with my sushi. But I don't do heavily processed soy. Believe me, to turn a soybean into milk, it's heavily processed, and that's the difference. So be mindful. Becoming a licensed esthetician, a master herbalist, a yoga and Ayurveda instructor, and like I like to call it, a guide, to help guide you through the reality, through articles, and help you find your way. Eating some soy isn't horrible for everybody. If you've been through menopause, or you've had blood work done to show that you're low in estrogen, then you might do well having some soy in your life. My experience, once again, is my experience, not everybody's experience. So I really want to emphasize that here, that I'm just telling my story. But eventually, yoga really started to resonate with me, being in the classroom, being able to share my knowledge with multiple people and guide people through their yoga practice, and which is a really good example of being a guide. I can't do the yoga for you. You have to do the yoga. I'm just your guide. I guide you through it. So when it comes to nutrition and taking care of your body on a daily basis, I can't eat certain foods for you. I really don't even want to tell you exactly what to eat and what not to eat, because I can't feel what you feel after you eat it. I can't feel that breast tenderness in you 24/7, 365 days of the year if you have it. Only you can feel that. But I will guide you in a direction that helps you figure out journaling, your foods, testing the pH of your body, and various other methods to try and figure out maybe what's a fit for you and what's not a fit for your body. and knowing that monthly, even weekly or yearly, your body can change. But I eventually, with yoga, I started to really take off with it and started to do less facials. I don't work in spas anymore. Working in spas and the commission that I made and the commission that the hotels or the spas took, it just really didn't level out for me. The benefits just weren't there. I wasn't getting that sense of my Dharma, feeling like I was in the right place, knowing that in the end I was only making maybe $12 to $15 an hour, but busting my butt and watching the spas and the hotels take 60% or more of that service away from me. And then when I booth rented, as an esthetician, I'll be honest with you, when you booth rent, like hairstylists, they just need a chair and a mirror. An esthetician, I needed a private room. And the equipment, the microderm, the magnifying glass, the equipment I needed, the steamer, the equipment I needed was just outrageous what I spent in money to buy all the equipment. And then with booth renting, they charged me $250 a week. That's $1,000 a month to rent a booth. Plus all my expenses in equipment, product, laundry, washing all the towels and sheets. It just wasn't serving me. And I really started to believe that with the skin being the largest organ of the body, that health is from the inside out. Our skin is indicative of what's going on inside your body. And the more I started to realize that, making the connection between the master herbalist and even being a yogi and the benefits of twisting and backbending and the benefits of yoga postures, I started to really realize that analyzing the skin was just a method for me to figure out what was going on inside the person. So I really shifted my emphasis. I started teaching more and more yoga. I found that I kind of had a niche for it or a calling for it. I developed a following. People enjoy my yoga, and bless you all if you're listening right now. I love it whenever you come see me, because you coming to see me is the best feedback and appreciation that I can get. I really do appreciate all my yogis over the last 9, almost 10 years. Thank you so much, because you helped me find my Dharma, my true calling. But I started to find that working in that group setting really served me well. And then seeing clients and yogis on the side. So a consultation with me really started to begin to become more of that full picture. A consultation with me became more about, let's analyze your skin, because your skin's indicative of what's going on inside you. What's your diet like? What's your digestion? How do you feel after you eat? And here's some yoga poses too. So maybe a couple herbs, some guidance on maybe what to try and eat and see how you feel. So it truly is guidance. I can't do these daily things for you. But let's sit down and talk about what's going on in your life, stress-wise, digestion, physically, how do you feel? So my consultations shifted from me giving a facial for fluff, just to make people feel good, to let's look at the whole picture here. Yes, the skin's the largest organ of the body. How can we make it healthier through eating and doing some yoga and a few herbs? So things really progressed and changed, and I didn't need that spa environment anymore. I didn't need the heavy equipment anymore. People, I will refer them to some estheticians if they really want the microderm and stuff like that, but it's not what I do. I'm more nurture the body to get your results. I still believe in some of those methods of esthetician. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say estheticians out there doing those amazing skin therapies isn't for everybody, because there's some really cool equipment out there producing some really good results. But if you spend a lot of money on all that equipment, on going to get a consult or a visit with an esthetician or even a dermatologist, and you don't take care of the nutrition end of things, then all that money you spent at the dermatologist or with your favorite esthetician Your skin could go back to the state that it was before you spent all that money on microdermabrasion or whatever it was you spent your money on. Because your skin is indicative of what's going on from the inside out. You need this whole picture. The whole picture is what you put in your body, how you take care of your body, and how you cleanse your skin. You need everything. So I really started again resonating with the groups in yoga. I did well with it. I had a lot of fun. I still have a lot of fun. I don't know why I use the word had. That seemed so passé. One-on-one, it just became much more amazing to see the evolution in people's lives and in their skin and their flexibility, their bodies with the physical postures of yoga. I also, at the various yoga studios that I taught at, I got the opportunity to co-lead and teach teacher trainings. So teaching future yoga students to become yoga teachers, which was amazing to be able to share my knowledge, because I love to share my knowledge. I hope that you've gotten that from this podcast, being 40 minutes into this. I hope, without me even having to say it, you've figured out how much I like to share my knowledge. And co-leading and teacher trainings was very fulfilling for me. If you ever want to learn something well, teach it. So even teaching to them, having their questions coming back to me, even helped me evolve and even dig deeper and finding even more about yoga off the mat and digging even more deeper. Ayurveda, I went on for continuing education for more Ayurveda, deeper into my yoga trainings. And when you look at my website today, there's just a plethora of knowledge and my offerings up there. My website is full of goodies. There's some free stuff up there, some like breathing exercises, a meditation. There are modules on learning more about the chakras and Ayurveda and Yin Yoga. It's just, I love it all and I want to share. So please, if you haven't checked all that out, make sure you check it out. Those programs on my website I created from scratch. Those are truly from my heart. It's a compilation of all the trainings that I've done and what I resonate with and my style of teaching and sharing. And I also have the podcast, which you're listening to right now, obviously. And as far as yoga studios that I've taught at, I'm the number 3 yoga instructor at the North Denver Core Power Yogas. So if you know what the North Denver chain of Core Power Yoga is, we're a franchise, but it encompasses 4 studios. There's a Westminster studio, Broomfield East, Louisville, and the Flatirons studio out at the Flatirons Mall. That's 4 yoga studios. And the chain opened in, I think, 2008. I started teaching there in 2010. But I have taught the 3rd most yoga classes at that yoga studio. I'm number 3 in line of who has taught the most yoga classes at those studios. I started 2 years later than the studio opened. I took a year off to go to Maui. And I am still number 3 as to who's taught the most yoga classes at those studios. So you can tell my passion for yoga because I teach a lot of yoga. I've also taught for 24-hour fitness. That was my first gig. I taught at 24-hour fitness for 3 years. I taught at Lifetime Fitness and was even the yoga coordinator at Lifetime Fitness. So I led a group of other yoga instructors, worked on the schedule, created meetings and reviews, and led teacher training for Lifetime Fitness for 5 years. And I taught at yoga at 2 studios in Maui while I was down there. It's called Infusion Yoga and Bar and Kihei Community Yoga. I've worked for the Fort Collins Core Power for almost 3 years. I worked for YogaPod in Fort Collins for 1 year, Loveland Community Yoga for 6 months. I've taught several private classes, I've also done corporate yoga, meaning I've gone to businesses and on their lunch hour taught yoga to the employees on their business or on their lunch breaks. And much, much more. It's been an amazing path for me. Again, I'm very grateful that I found my Dharma because this industry really does call my name. And with the Ayurveda, that just ties in with my consultations, a little bit of a mix of my knowledge of traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, yoga, and even nutrition. The esthetician being a licensed esthetician. Remember, I told you even my esthetician school was very nutrition and natural based and focused on overall health, not just the skin. I have over 1,000 hours into yoga alone. And between my esthetician and master herbalist, that brings me up to about 3,000 hours. I'm always constantly seeking out more. Learning is a journey for me. There's always more. And the health and nutrition industry is constantly changing, and I do my best to keep up with trends. Even if I don't believe in a trend, I research it just to make sure that I'm not missing something. Because maybe my opinion doesn't matter. But if I research it and I actually have knowledge of it, then my opinion can matter if I've researched it. But if I just listen to a quick blurb on the news and I form an opinion based on a 30-second news segment, I don't believe I have an opinion about it. So I'm a total junkie. I open up my computer immediately and I'll Google something and start researching it. So if you work with me, you know that I've researched it. I'm also humble enough that if I don't have an answer for you, I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for you today, but let's look into it. That's part of being a guide. Is there are times when the two of us or a group of us, we have to sit down and analyze it and research it and troubleshoot it. At one time in my life, I was a software test engineer, and troubleshooting was natural for me. And even though I was troubleshooting software at the time, it was very easy for me to take that geekiness, that geek in me. It was easy for me to translate that into becoming a troubleshooter of health and nutrition. I'm somebody who will go down that rabbit hole for you, and I will read multiple websites and books and even ask questions of other people to figure out what is behind that nutrition craze or whatever it is. I will go that extra mile for you or for anybody or even for myself because, let's face it, in the end, if I'm a total geek about nutrition, in the end, I want to know just because I want to know. Not knowing what I don't know inspires me to want to know what I feel I need to know. So I keep digging. I want to know more about these connections in our bodies and why things work, why everybody's body is different. And through Ayurveda is tried and true. It's been around for thousands and thousands of years. The reason why Ayurveda got lost in the mix is because when the British colonies started taking over, Ayurveda at one time was thought as a witchcraft, per se. That's not exactly the words they used, but it got suppressed to where if you didn't believe in their beliefs, then you weren't allowed to use a certain kind of alternative medicine. That's also why our Ayurveda became what's called an alternative medicine. It was because it was alternative to their beliefs. And so it had to kind of go underground for thousands of years. It was just taught at the kitchen table and passed down from one family to another. And then once we kind of got past all that, that's how the United States was formed even, was we were trying to escape the ideals of people telling us what religion we had to believe in, right? And and that witchcraft, anybody who did anything herbally was witchcraft. We escaped and started to form the United States, a place that was freer. We could have freer thinking, a place where other religions could exist, and there was more freedom of thought, freedom of religion, and everything. So nowadays, we need to bring back Ayurveda. It's not something that's just been invented. It's been around for thousands of years, but it got suppressed. And it's had a hard time making a comeback, but I believe it's coming back more and more and more. With the awareness of yoga, Ayurveda is making a good comeback. Yoga and Ayurveda are the sister science of each other. They were intended to be practiced together. They weren't intended to just be one or the other. They're meant to be practiced together. They are the mind, body, and spirit connection. Yoga is what we practice in our society today. Yoga is more known to be the asanas and meditation. Ayurveda encompasses mindful eating and listening to your body all day long, and the nutrition that you're putting into your body to get better results. Just like stretching and twisting helps your body get better results, Ayurveda brings what we eat, what we think, what we believe. So it brings those puzzle pieces together to create this amazing practice and amazing health and even feeling better daily. None of us know when we're meant to die. We don't know when our time is up. And time is precious. But imagine being able to feel good today so you can enjoy today. Some of us take on that mentality of, who knows how I'm going to die. I'm just going to eat this junk food and live for today because this junk food feels good. But then the next morning you can barely wake up until you've drank a pot of coffee. So imagine being able to wake up the next day and feeling amazing because the day before you treated your body well. The whole picture, from a physical practice of exercise to what you put in your body, what you ate, and melding it all together, even some meditation, being mindful, and feeling good every day. So, if you are interested in a consultation with me, I encourage you on my website, you can book a session with me. I have an online schedule. You can book a session with me. A session does include talking about what your skin is like, what your digestion is like, what your physical activities are like. You don't have to practice yoga to meet with me. We're going to talk a little bit about how to balance your body through pH, reading the pH of your body. I don't just promote eating alkaline foods without you knowing how to test the pH of your body to know if alkaline diet is for you. Because not everybody out there needs an alkaline diet. Very interesting when it comes to pH, which could be a whole nother podcast someday when I talk about pH. It's a big realm. Ayurveda, you don't have to eat Indian food to be Ayurvedic. You don't have to be a vegetarian. You don't even have to eat turmeric. Yes, turmeric is a good part of Ayurveda, and it does help with inflammation in the body. But you don't have to eat turmeric to practice Ayurveda. I have my online trainings, pre-recorded workshops. I mentioned them a little bit ago. I sat down and recorded them. There's a PowerPoint presentation if you like the visual. I've also spliced it away from the PowerPoint presentation, so it's just an audible that you can listen to, just like listening to this podcast. And everything is up on my website for purchase. Those workshops include Ayurveda, the chakras, yin yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga, and much, much, much more. So I encourage you, if you ever wanted to do some good self-learning, I have those up there. I'm very proud of them. I built them, and they're based on me compiling a lot of my knowledge into them. I also, on YouTube, I have yoga classes or recorded yoga sequences that you can practice yoga with me. Most of them are 20 minutes long. It doesn't take long to do 20 minutes of some yoga. some hip openers. You don't have to be a yoga practitioner to follow along with the hip openers. They're very accessible. I have some people who watch them quite a bit to get relief in their lower back. Opening the hips helps the lower back. But together, let's do this. Whether you find my free offerings or you want to work with me one-on-one personally and help support my podcast and my business, either way, sharing is caring, and I am here for you. Let me know what I can do for you. I am your guide. I encourage you to review and rate my podcast. It's how other people can find me. When they're Googling in search engines, they'll find me easier if I have more reviews and ratings. If you will take a picture, so if you will do a written review in iTunes, take a picture of that written review on your screen. So when you have the review done, take a snapshot of your screen, email it to me. Email the picture to Renee Stahl 108 at gmail.com. So that's RENEESTAH as in Harry, L 108 at gmail.com. Email me the picture of reviewing my podcast, and I'll send you a link to schedule a 45-minute consultation with me. Free, no cost. Let's talk one-on-one for 45 minutes, see if we are a fit together, if I can help you out with some nutrition, or skincare, or yoga postures, or even some meditation. I have a couple clients that we log in once a week, and I lead them through just a guided meditation. We talk a little bit about nutrition, how their body's feeling, and it's recorded. So for that week, for the next 7 days, they can replay it and listen to that meditation and get that positive affirmation and mantra going for a week. And then by the next week, we discuss, okay, what's going on in your life? Now let's create a new meditation. Let's record it, and you can replay it for a week until we meet again. It's kind of cool. They very much enjoy it, and I enjoy doing it for them. So let me know how I can help you. In the meantime, you can help me out by reviewing and rating my podcast to help me out in the search engine. Visit my website, reneestahl.online. Again, that's RENEESTAH as in Harry, L .online. That's my website. Go check it out. Join my newsletter. Let's do this. Let's cultivate some good vibrancy in your life, some vitality, some good health, some peace, love, abundance. I want to hear from you. How can I help you? Let's do this. From the light, the love, the peace, and abundance in me, to the light, the love, the peace, and abundance in each of you. I leave you today with namaste.